Welcome to Weekly Cheats. I'm Aaron, and after a week of eating clean, it's time for something not so sweet. I've actually had several people ask me if I could do something that was a little bit more keto friendly and less sugar and flour. So today, what we're actually gonna be making is a copycat recipe of Outback Steakhouse's Alice Springs chicken. Something we make a lot in my family. We have a couple alterations to how Outback does it. I like ours more, of course. But yeah, it's a really good recipe. And it's kind of made me think what I'll probably do going forward is once a month, I'll post a non-sugar recipe kind of like this for those of you that like a more keto-friendly cheat or just a high-fat cheat instead of a high-sugar cheat. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do, I've already pre-trimmed these chicken breasts, but we're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees where we're going to bake them. You can cook these on the grill, but because not everybody's gonna have access to a grill, I'm just gonna do this recipe with baking them in the oven. If you like grilled chicken, great, go ahead and do it that way. If you wanna cook it on a frying pan or on a George Foreman grill, go ahead and do that too. However you like to cook your chicken, do it that way. But for the sake of this video, we'll do ours in the oven, 400 degrees. Next up, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna butterfly these chicken breasts. So, as you can see, these are a little thick. They take a little longer to bake that way or cook, but also the surface on them isn't as level. So butterflying these actually does two things for us. It gives us a nice flatter surface and more surface area for our bacon, our sauteed mushrooms, and our cheese. More room to pack as much of that on as possible. But it also really reduces the cook time because you go from that thick to that thick. So first thing to do to butterfly is I like to, with the way the chicken breast is, I like to get this outside piece and cut towards this. So you're basically just gonna find pretty much in the center here. Make sure you have a sharp knife. Otherwise cutting through it like this is not super easy. You're gonna go just about to the edge. So we're not cutting all the way through, obviously. We wanna have one. So you fold it down and then you could take the knife and kind of press it like that. If you have a mallet for a tenderizer, you can use it that too, but the knife is just fine. Just make sure you don't cut yourself with the sharp edge. Now we've got a butterfly chicken breast that we can load stuff up on top of. With this, we've got them butterflied now. I don't like to use too much seasonings on the actual chicken itself. Just some salt. You can use regular kosher, whatever you want. I like Himalayan pink salt right now. And then some just regular black pepper. I like to let the flavor actually come from the other things they're going to be put on instead of the seasoning of the chicken itself. If you want to use seasoning salts and stuff like that, that's totally fine. That's up to you. But for this recipe, I like to keep this part of it pretty basic. So just grind some on here. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is get our bacon ready to go. I put it in the oven, that way it doesn't get everywhere, and I can kind of control how much it cooks through. So 425 degrees, and we'll put it in the oven for roughly 10 to 12 minutes, pull it out, flip it so it can cook on the other side, and about another 10 to 12 minutes. If you have a convection oven, you can do about 400 degrees, but keep it on the regular bake setting. At the very end, if you want, you can put it on your speed bake or the roast setting, whatever your convection oven has, and at that point it'll crisp it up real nice, but don't do that to begin with or they will be black. So premium ingredients are the best way to go. Don't get the pre-cooked paper thin stuff that's just like cardboard. Get real bacon. This is the stuff from Costco. It's a super thick, nice and thick cut. We're just gonna line them up on our pan. Okay, so we're all preheated. Gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. Like I said, it's gonna be about 10, roughly 12 minutes. We'll check it at the 10-minute mark just to make sure it's not cooking too much on one side. One thing that I really like about covering the entire pan in tin foil though, is that you can just take it out of the oven. After you remove the bacon, you can let the grease settle on the tin foil and then just chuck it. You don't need a can to dump it into or to dump it down your drain where you'll ruin it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this in. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is get our mushrooms ready to saute. So I like to buy whole ones and then I'll just dice them up myself. Well, not dice them, slice them up myself. You can buy pre-sliced ones. I've washed these myself. You can buy pre-washed ones, whatever, however you like it. But I like to leave a little bit of stem and then just cut from the top down. So we're about yay thick, about like that. One thing to keep in mind is it's gonna look like you have a lot, but when you saute mushrooms, you go from roughly the quantity that you have to about 1/3 of the size. So always have more than you think you're gonna need by at least 50%, and then you might have enough. Watch out for the bacon grease. Okay, so this was 12 minutes. I did leave it in for 12, checked it at 10, still ready to go. So now we're just gonna flip them over so they cook on the other side. As you can see, it's still plenty raw right now, but the last 12 minutes will bring it home to where we want it. With this particular, you don't want your bacon too crispy for this recipe, because then it's hard to kind of work with and cut through when it's on top of your chicken. You want it cooked, but you also don't want it rubbery like it is right now. So we'll get it where we want. For this to go back in. Okay, so we're gonna set that for 12 minutes. And the next thing we can do, now that that's in, we can throw our chicken in, okay? This will take anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, roughly, to bake. So we'll put it in, let it go. There we go. And now, we can get started on sauteing the mushrooms while these finish off their second phase. Okay, so if you never sauteed mushrooms before, it's not overly complicated. Usually something big that you can stir them around. I like to use a flat spatula like this so that I can get under them and flip them easier. You can use a wooden spoon though if you don't have one of these, but if you don't have one of these, you should invest in one. So I like to get the butter going first. We've got about 1/2 stick of butter in right now. So you get that going, and then we can throw in the mushrooms themselves. That's ready to go. Waste none. All right. We might need to add a little bit more butter, but kind of get them, stir them around a little bit. This I do like to season, so I'll throw some more salt in there and salt and pepper. And then I really enjoy Lowry's seasoning salt. We don't need a ton of this, but it does give it just a nice little kick of flavor. And not spicy when I say kick. Just kind of stir this around. At some point it might look like you've got, that's not supposed to do that. At some point it might look like you don't have enough butter in there, but the mushrooms will start, they're soaking up all the butter that you've got in there right now, and then when they start to brown, they start to release some of that juice back into the pan. So don't go crazy adding tons of butter because it looks like it's all dried up. Like at this point, it looks like it's kind of starting to dry up. It's soaking up everything we put in there, but just go easy on it. Got this on high heat right now. Okay, so as you can see, they're starting to brown and they're starting to release some of those juices back in like I was talking about. So I didn't add any more butter, but now I can start to kind of get under them and flip them over to make sure. And this is where we really want it to be able to simmer and cook. Once it starts to release this juice back out is where you'll really start to see. Just a couple of minutes is all it takes to get here. As we can see, they're browning really nice now. If you want to come get a close up here, you can see it's starting to get a little bit brown / orange-ish because it's cooking all the way through on the edges. That's right about where we want to be. So now we're just going to put it all the way down, turn the heat all the way down to basically nothing. Get under here and flip them a little bit to make sure that this side's nice and done. We can get even cooking. And then we'll let these kind of chill while we wait for the bacon to finish and the chicken to finish. And on low heat like this, they shouldn't really continue to cook too much more because the pan will cool down a little bit, but a thick, sturdy pan like this is gonna stay hot longer. So, depending how close everything else is, you may just turn the heat off. I'm gonna leave it on for a little bit here. And we have 25 seconds left on our bacon. So we're pretty much there on 12 minutes. Let's just take a look at it. Oh, yeah, it's ready. Let's take that out. It's important to get the bacon off of the pan and out of the grease as quickly as possible because it's basically right where we want it to be, but as long as it stays in the grease, that's the main thing that seems to cook it. So we want to get that out. I like to just put a plate down with some paper towels to soak up the grease, and I'll just kind of layer it. A couple layers, paper towels, bacon, until I have it all on there so it can soak that grease up and not overcook. Okay, we're gonna check our chicken. It's been in just barely longer than the second time from the bacon. So let's just check and see how done it is. We'll cut into the thickest one right here and just see how we're doing. Oh yeah, looking good. Nice and juicy, cooked all the way through. Awesome. Now we're ready for assembly. Turn the heat off on this. We can shut this off. All right, the next thing to do is start loading this up with bacon strips. In case you can't tell, yes, I played a lot of Tetris growing up, and I was good at it. Now we've got all our bacon down. Next thing we want to do is layer with mushrooms. So also nice to have the flat. Outback uses Colby Jack cheese. I don't like that as much. I find just plain medium or sharp cheddar is the way to go. Tillamook, okay? Good quality cheese. Don't buy Kraft singles and try and melt that garbage on this, or otherwise you just disservice yourself here. So we just put a whole one on top and roughly about a half. Yep. Nice thing about the cheese is that it will kind of hold everything together as we broil it, so that when you go to eat it, it melts down and holds the bacon and the mushrooms in place when you go to eat this. Okay, as you can see, it's already starting to melt, but the next thing we're gonna do to finish these off is we're gonna broil them in the oven. If you don't have a broiler, just put it on the hottest temperature that you can get up to, 500 degrees or whatever. It's really just to make the cheese melt down over everything. And I like to kind of let the cheese start to bubble on top and brown a little bit, gives it a little bit of a crust on there. It's good. Luckily this pan has cooled down since I took it out. Just gonna put it in, and then we're gonna watch it for a couple of minutes while it broils. All right, so we've had it in broil for a couple of minutes. Oh yeah. That's burning me. Okay. Now it's ready to plate. I like to pair this with Lithehouse's honey mustard. You can use whatever honey mustard you like, but of all the ones that I've tried, this is the best. And it's not where you would normally buy your honey mustard, like in the salad dressing aisle. It's actually over in the refrigerated section in most stores. So where you get your salad mixes and things like that, it's usually somewhere over there. So check with your local grocery store and see if they carry Litehouse dressing. It's definitely the best way to go. All right, so here we have the COPYCAT Outback Steakhouse Alice Springs chicken. I hope you like this recipe. If you make it, again, go to Weekly Cheats on Instagram, post a photograph of it, by Tuesday and tag Weekly Cheats in it. And then come back and comment your Instagram handle on the YouTube video here so I don't miss it and I can make sure that I see it. The best person to most closely make this or improve it the best, I'll go ahead and feature on our next video next week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications. And enjoy the food. That's too big. Good thing we sanitized the countertop.